Another Saturday, another Ohio State game day, and another Ohio State victory, this time over Illinois at Illinois. I'm Chris Drew. That's my guy, Ron James. Ron, how the heck are you?
Doing well. You know, the best thing about being 6-0.
The chance to go 7-0, and Ohio State takes care of business in sleepy Champaign. And what honestly opened up, I thought was going to be a super blowout. It only ended up being a moderate blowout. A lot of encouraging, a lot to talk about. It's funny, Ron, because we watched the game, and we watched the game through a lens of I want this team to be perfect. I want this team to be absolutely excellent. So we're going to do two things, I think, today. We're going to acknowledge how dominant of a team this is and how good of a football team this is, while still nitpicking and pointing out where we think this team could be better. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal isn't to beat Illinois. It's to do what?
Win a national championship. A second one in a row.
The goal is to go back-to-back, and when you hold a team to a back-to-back standard, sometimes you end up nitpicking a little bit. But I kind of want to start with the positives. I want to start with, and for a large part, how ridiculous this defense was. I mean, this was honestly Matt Patricia versus Luke Altmaier, right? Like, this was that kind of game. And Illinois this year, unlike previous years, they've been more willing to let Luke Altmaier drop back. Luke Altmaier came into this season not having thrown a single pick, and they had him drop back 44 times today. So we knew that this was going to be a quote-unquote stress test for this defense in a lot of different ways. I thought the defense played exceptional. What really stood out to me is I know that they allowed 16 points, but the goal line defense is outrageous, Ron.
I've talked about it on previous episodes. Those are my favorite highlights of this Buckeye team over the past 2 years. The goal line compilation feels like it continues to grow each week. We almost added another one this past week. What a play by Brett Bielema. Even Matt Patricia tipped his cap. Like, I mean, I guess you got me there. You know, you can only have so many stands, but I mean, the physicality that they have been able to establish in the red zone and a face that we haven't seen out there in goal line stands at all this season, Jason Moore, a big 6'5", 300-plus pounder on the interior of the Buckeyes defensive line, and we saw him in on some of those goal line stands. So we've talked about this team progressing week in and week out. They were without Edric Houston. They get Jason Moore back. Two injuries that the Buckeyes were facing on the defensive side of the ball. We've talked about how Lorenzo Styles, in my opinion, is the X factor to this defense because it allows them to be more multiple. They were without him. They had to move Jermaine Matthews into the slot. We'll talk about Devin Sanchez in a little bit, but he gets his first start. They're without Edric Houston, and you see the Buckeyes still go out and put out a dominant performance. Yes, they put out 16 points, but it feels like even when teams have success against the Buckeyes, it looks the same, and it doesn't result in winning football because it's felt like the Damon Williams performance against the Buckeyes. A lot of empty stats, a decent amount of a decent completion percentage for Luke Altmaier, but it wasn't resulting in enough points to compete with the Buckeyes, and we see them stay under 16 points, our magical number since we started on Bleacher Report. We're now on our second defensive coordinator, and we haven't moved the line at 17 points. If the Buckeyes are able to hold the opponent to 17 points, they will win the game. They go out there and get it done 34-16.
You know, it's fascinating, Ron. Like, I go into every game, like, looking to get some sort of answer. I don't know the answer I'm going to get, but I'm looking to get some sort of answer. Beginning of the year, you and I talked at great length, honestly, at nausea, about kind of the good and the bad, but this team kind of where we're worried about. And one thing that some people tried to pour onto us was concern about the defensive line depth. Like, they tried, peel back the curtain. People within the space tried to force me and Ron to be concerned about defensive line depth, right?
Absolutely. And I've been one of the biggest Will Smith Jr. believers in the Ohio State fan base.
Well, neither of us budged, right? Neither of us budged. Every time someone tried to force us to be stressed this offseason about the depth of D-line, Ron and I, lockstep. We were not budging. And today, at least, I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm watching the game and I'm like, people forced me to try to be worried about this unit. I'm not worried about it. Tywin Malone, Will Smith, Jason Moore. Like, I mean, are they perfect? No. But do I trust them? Yeah. Tywin Malone had a ridiculous tackle down there at the goal line where he was going the wrong way, beat his guy so bad that he accidentally opened up a new hole. And he's like, you know what? Coach Mick got me right. I'm stronger than everybody here. I'm going to one-arm grab this running back and bring him down before he scores. Or tight end before he scores. The D-line is good and deeper than I think a lot of people predicted.
And the defensive lineman that they let exit in the transfer portal is playing as one of the best defensive tackles in the SEC right now. The Buckeyes, we keep talking about what we've learned about this team each week and something that we try to identify. And the recurring theme is this defensive line because we keep seeing new people step up. We've seen Tywin Malone step up. Edric Houston has been not himself, dealing with injuries. He plays his best game in a Buckeye uniform last week and doesn't play this past week. And you see Jason Moore get into this rotation. I feel like Edric Houston is becoming the biggest X factor on this defense because that was someone that the Buckeyes came into the season as one of the certainties on that defensive line with questions, and he hasn't played to that expectation at all this season, and the Buckeyes have still thrived. If he's able to elevate his game, this Buckeye defense continues to have the opportunity to get better, and while they give up 3 times their average points per game, I thought 5 points was a little unsustainable as they continued into Big Ten play. But at no point in this game did you ever feel like this game was at risk, especially with that defense out there. They found ways to get after the quarterback. And coming into this game, I talked about this Illinois matchup like the Nebraska game last year. Nebraska had a similar down performance against Indiana earlier in the season, and it gave Buckeyes the expectation last year that, oh, Indiana beat the heck out of Nebraska. We should go do the same. And we went out there and we're in a slugfest with Nebraska. And I was really interested to see, would Ryan Day's team have that same type of letdown this week? And it did not feel like it at all. It felt like the Buckeyes were in complete control of this game. And it seems like they're doing whatever they want out there. And it doesn't always look the prettiest because they struggle in the red zone, but it's almost like they're taking a methodical approach. Not that, oh, we need to go in and just win this game. It seems like there's things that they are coming into these games that they want to execute, and they're not completely opening it up against anybody, and they're focusing on getting better at things week in and week out. And you saw Julian Sain attack the seams and the middle of the field this game, and that's something that you've heard the Buckeyes criticize for allegedly not being able to do, but it just seems more like the Buckeyes are hiding their hand week in and week out.
This is literally like what NFL domination feels like. Like NFL domination isn't, getting blitzed like crazy and scoring 40 points in a quarter. Like that's not what it is. On Thursday night, like my New York Giants beat the Eagles. You know what the score was? 34-17. And all of the talk was like, this was a dismantling. They bullied them. They Eagles never stood a chance. And it's funny because like that same attitude is not applied to college football because this score was 34-16. So same except for with one extra point. And it's because like this is a real like game control game that Ryan is playing. And then additionally, like Illinois was trying to score late. Like they were very clearly aware of what the spread was or whatever. Maybe they just want to get some good reps in there, but trying to score late in the game. Like this game essentially was over, and Ohio State took its foot off the gas about 3 minutes into the fourth quarter. I mean, honestly, after halftime they took it off the gas, but then they kind of just like had it in cruise control towards the end. But no, I mean, you're right. Like you're 100% right.
Yeah, when you look at this and you see you're 100% right about Illinois wanting to score at the end. It was talked about pregame, the bias between the Big Ten and the SEC and the way that the Alabama win over Missouri would be viewed versus Ohio State's win over Illinois, especially if the Buckeyes were to go out there and thump them like the way that we saw Indiana do. Does this, given how Illinois was able to compete in this game and it wasn't necessarily the same blowout that we saw against Indiana, does that change your perception of Indiana's win over Illinois, or do you feel like it's the same Illinois team and the Buckeyes just weren't trying to run it up like Sig?
I think it's the same Illinois team. Here we go. I think that we got a better version of the Illinois team. Illinois has been fabulous at home. Like they've been exceptional. And I think there are two programs operating under different kind of umbrellas, right? What does Indiana need? Indiana needs style points. Hate to break it to everybody, but like Ohio State is the defending champs. They don't need style points. So expecting them to go get them when they don't need them is a little bit different. Because what matters for Ohio State? Young guys, snap count, injuries, like staying healthy for the post. So for them, it doesn't do them any favors to go with this style point system or style, because that's when you end up kind of burning guys out and guys' legs getting dead. I mean, all right, so everybody that listens to us, we're all very aware that if Ryan Day wanted to, every game could be a bloodbath in style points, right? We saw it in 2021 and in 2022. When it's time to run up the score, I mean, when they played Michigan State, a top 10 Michigan State team, CJ Stroud's first year, they won 56 to, I think, 7.
2018 Maryland.
Yeah, we can do style. We can do that, but that isn't conducive to where we want to be at the end of the year. And so we're Signetti. They need style points because they're trying to chase a brand. And this win, the fact that it wasn't a stylistic win, is going to make, I guess, national media look at Indiana better than they are. It's like, well, wow, Indiana bludgeoned that team and Ohio State didn't. This Indiana team, like, that is almost another notch in Signetti's belt. And he's kind of taking advantage of that. But for Ohio State, like, did you walk away from this game feeling like Ohio State has some like huge flaw because they didn't blow Illinois out the way that Indiana did?
No, and honestly, as an Ohio State fan and a Big Ten truther, I'm kind of glad they didn't blow them out. So it makes it look like Illinois is a better team, and it feels like the middle to lower half of the Big Ten hasn't gotten a lot of respect this season, and it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts the strength of schedule metric that the College Football Playoff Committee uses, and how that impacts the initial College Football Playoff rankings, even past the 12 that make the playoff.
Yeah, no, 100%. I do want to change gears. I want to talk about the running back room a little bit. We have a unique mix going on in the running back room. It does feel like to me that maybe, I mean, here we go. Last week, the top two backs clearly were Bo Jackson and James Peoples. We only saw CJ Donaldson get 3 carries last week for 3 yards. It was a little bit unique, a little bit different. We weren't used to it. This week, the top 2 running backs were Bo Jackson and CJ Donaldson. CJ, it looked like he was going to be second in carries until it looked like Bo Jackson maybe tweaked something early on in the game. And then CJ started getting more and more carries. And later in the game, I thought CJ looked better and better kind of as the game went. I want to get your reaction to how this group is kind of splitting things up and your thoughts on them, because not saying that it's not a great group, but this might be the group on the team that's not hyper elite, if that's fair to say.
It felt like early in the game that Coach Locke had finally found his rhythm and balance of the way he wanted to rotate this backfield. Yeah. You would see CJ Donaldson in power situations. You would see Bo Jackson feel like he was the lead back. And then when Bo Jackson would need a spell and it wasn't necessarily a power situation, you saw James Peoples get the opportunity. But this game, and we talked about last week, it felt like it was the best game that we saw from James Peoples in an Ohio State uniform. It felt like we went back to seeing James Peoples of old this past week. You look at the stats, James Peoples only has 5 carries for 7 yards, 1.4 yards per carry. A lot of being taken down by the first guy. And we talked about this in the halftime space. Something that's getting underrated about this red zone struggles is how much this team relied on having 2 NFL running backs in the red zone last year, and the fact that no one took Quinshon Judkins down on the first attempt. He always made the first guy miss, whether the offensive line blocked it right or not, and that hit a lot of flaws. And Ryan Day's offenses have historically struggled in the red zone when they don't have 2 NFL running backs to rely on, and it felt like Carlos Locklin was starting to settle into that rotation, and then you see Bo Jackson tweak things, and that really puts the pressure on James Peoples of, okay, you were kind of bailed out. You did not live up to expectations in the first 3 games of the year when they were ready to crown you the lead back at The Ohio State. And now if Bo Jackson is 100% to go, you're going to need to shoulder that load for a team with national championship expectations. And we know you have the NIL and you know you have the recruiting pedigree to warrant that you should be able to go out and do that if that's what's asked of you. So I think it is imperative that Carlos Locklin has all 3 of these backs ready. And if one of them's not ready to go, the other 2 have to be able to step up regardless of the combination of the 2. And we've watched CJ Donaldson shoulder that load for Texas, and it seems like that's who they're going to lean on going forward if Bo Jackson is limited in any capacity going forward. And we've seen them have success. I mean, they beat the former number 1 team in the country at one point in time with that running back duo. We didn't see Bo Jackson make an appearance at all in that game. So hopefully CJ Donaldson is going to be able to shoulder that load if Bo Jackson is limited in any capacity going forward.
Bo's the best back. We know that. CJ Donaldson, I think, benefits the most from like volume carries because he's such a feel back, I think. James Peoples plays running back like he's not allowed to make somebody miss, and that bugs me a little bit.
He plays like he's thinking, and it feels like that's something that we normally in a type of analysis that we have about a linebacker or a defensive player that's playing a step slow, and it just feels like he's not playing with the same level of explosion that Bo Jackson is for sure. But even CJ Donaldson, you saw him come in after Bo Jackson went out with a tweaked ankle and just explode through the hole. And we just haven't seen that from James Peoples. And I mean, and you look at the picture on the screen. I mean, he is a physical specimen out there. He has the body.
He's got the best body out of all of them. We could call a spade a spade. James Peoples looks like, if we are just doing a media day, we're just, hey, look, I need all three of you guys to get a pump on. I'm about to take some pictures. The one that's going to look the best is James Peoples. We saw the quads, the calves, the like everything. It looks outrageous. And then when you watch him play, it's like, dog, like, are you scared to hurt somebody? Are you scared to make somebody miss? Like, why are you thinking more than the other two who you should be a better athlete than?
Yeah, they should be making business decisions when you run at them, not vice versa.
Yeah, like there was a moment where down in the red zone, he had a chance to go to hit a hole hard, and he almost like tiptoed through the hole and then got hit and taken down so easily because he's not running as violently as we would have thought. And for me, I'm like, are you worried about fumbling? You're just not in the right headspace, I don't think, to be a psycho down in the red zone. Because what do you need in the red zone? You need a really tough kid who's willing to get skinny when he needs to, make somebody miss when he needs to, but also like keeps the legs driving. He almost lowers his shoulder and then gives up on the legs. So I'm just going to go down at first contact. And that bothers me. Like, you're letting guys off the hook. And that leads to our next thing. The red zone was okay today, but in the grand scheme of like the season, it's just not as good as every other situational football we have at Ohio State right now. Right?
Absolutely. And someone made a great point during the halftime space. It's fine and dandy when the Buckeyes are winning 34-16 and they're playing Illinois. But, I mean, there's still Buckeye fans that have nightmares about 2019 and the amount of field goals that the Buckeyes had to kick. And it's something that they're going to have to correct. We used this graphic before here on Bleacher Report, and I said, Chris, I'm bringing the red zone monster back, because while they found ways to score, it still feels like this is the biggest question mark with this Ohio State team. It's no longer, can Julian Sand throw over the middle of the field? It's not really the right guard. They seem to be rotating there and trying to figure things out. I thought the offensive line played solid today. This red zone, something is going to have to shake. And Cam made a great point during the halftime space that it doesn't feel like they're necessarily scheming these things up. He said it feels like the Buckeyes are playing with a practice script. They have established what they're going to do in the red zone this week and try to get better at it. And just like in practice, the defense may know the play, go out there and move them and still execute. And it feels like that's what the Buckeyes are doing. You see them finally at the end of the game go to Jeremiah Smith and just stop playing with their food in the red zone. And it's like, you forgot that you had 4 down there? It's like, get the ball to 4. Anytime that you see this offense stall and they were able to do that, you just hope that this isn't something that creeps up in the playoffs like we've seen in years past. But the only thing that's leading me to believe that this is something that the Buckeyes are going to be able to solve is it still seems very vanilla. You don't see a lot of pre-snap motion in the red zone. The run game isn't very creative. They come out in 12, 13 personnel. They haven't really thrown out of those packages much in the red zone. So I'm hoping the Buckeyes have a secret play sheet hidden for the red zone going forward, because one of the things is it feels like the defense is coming downhill every time the Buckeyes are in the red zone. And if they're that committed to stopping the run, I feel like the Buckeyes have a lot of opportunities for counter plays later in the season.
It does feel like when Ryan Day's teams don't have a mobile quarterback, sometimes the red zone struggles kind of pop out. And that's kind of, I think, what's happened here. Like you made a great point about the Jeremiah Smith thing. It's like they've got that was easy button in the back corner. Like I am not a big fade route guy. I don't know how you feel about fade routes.
Hate it. Statistically, it's not a good play.
It's not a good play unless you have one of those guys, right? Like the Lions were able to do it because they have Calvin Johnson. And then if they commit extra to Calvin, it's like, okay, we now have numbers in the run game. Like the Falcons were able to do it. They have Julio Jones. So I think, like, fortunately, like for Ryan Day, for Ohio State, they do have a guy that's definitely cut from that cloth, but you don't want to always have to go there. Like, you don't want to always have to throw the ball in red zone. Like, you would prefer to be able to run it in. And so I don't know exactly how that gets fixed.
One thing I wanted to ask you, and the one thing that leads me to believe that the pass game has not been creative at all in the red zone. It doesn't seem like they're really opening things up. And we've seen the Buckeyes in years past when they weren't successful in the red zone in the Cade Stover, Marvin Harrison Jr. era. And we always used to say, okay, you can't run the ball. That's fine. But why are we scheming things open for Cade Stover? So, I mean, we've talked up this tight end room a ton this year. We'll get into that because they almost got Jeremiah Smith killed today. But for the most part, these tight ends have been a factor in the passing game. So you would imagine when the Buckeyes do decide to open it up in the red zone, they should have some things drawn up because they were all over the whiteboard when Cade Stover was here. So I would imagine they're going to find a way to get 4 open in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean they should, or like do the stuff they used to do with Chris Olave, like just have a sprint across and like just see who can win that race. And like I think that there is an opportunity to get a guy like BI involved in the red zone too, just because there is so much attention that is going to go to Jeremiah Smith. And so
yeah, I love Brandon Ennis as a player. I'm not a Brandon Ennis on an end around type of fan.
No, not even just an end around. More.
But he's like, one of those guys, exactly. Like in the red zone, he's a guy that is known. I mean, we talk about his releases and call it teach tape. He's a guy that can create separation despite not being a complete burner. His short area quickness is ridiculous. His ability to sell head fakes and get out of breaks is amazing. So you would imagine that you would see him on a zig in the red zone or find some sort of way to allow him to get into space. And we've watched it on all 22 a couple of times early in the season. I believe it was it the Grambling game or the Ohio game, maybe the Ohio game that he missed BI twice in the red zone. So again, I know they have it in their playbook. It's just when will we see it? And will it be too late, or will they have enough reps doing it when it comes time that they actually have to punch it in the red zone? Were you surprised that Ryan Day took the 3 on the first drive?
No, I wasn't. I was bummed, but not surprised. It's like, because I think honestly, Ron, like I think that if you are at home, I think you go for the 6. I think being on the road, you just want points on the board. That way, the next time you take possession, no matter what happens, you have a chance to take the lead. I think that was important for Ryan. So because it's on the road, that seems to be kind of his tendency. Just real quick on BI, I think his skill set matches up perfectly in the red zone with Julian Saint's skill set. So I think there is something there when push comes to shove. Now there was that moment where on the first drive, I don't think Ryan Day had the play sheet in front of him, and then like I noticed people later in the game saying that Ryan Day had the play sheet in front of him. Are you jumping down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole about who's calling plays, who's doing what, or are we just hanging out and watching our team dominate?
I mean, I feel like the only reason why we didn't see Ryan Day with the play sheet in his hand more last year was because our offensive coordinator was Chip Kelly, and that's his mentor. Like, that's his man. I taught you this. Like, you know what I mean? You are a disciple of me. How dare you try to grab my play sheet? With Ryan, it's like, I mean, with Brian, this is my show. Like, at the end of the day, Ryan is the CEO, and he doesn't care what Brian thinks, and he'll grab the play sheet if he has to. Me personally, I don't love it. I feel like when Brian has the opportunity, he's not big on establishing the run, and he takes shot plays, and you can tell the difference between the two. And Ryan Day gets that. It feels like it's not even like he has the same play sheet as Hartline. It feels like he pulls the old Michigan game plan out of his back pocket, and it's like, we're going to muck this thing up.
It's almost like he goes so far one way to balance out how far the like Brian is the other way. It's like we got to find a happy medium. But here we go. In defense of Brian, if I'm looking at this roster and thinking about who I want to touch the ball more than anybody else, I'm sorry, it's not one of the big 3 in the running back room.
No, it's not. It's one of these wide receivers, and then you go out and get Max Clare. You saw Julian Saint's ability to attack the seam, and that's something that's been criticized this season. At this point in time, you've watched Julian Saint make every throw on the field, and we've watched games where we've watched Kyle McCord throw the ball way more times than any Buckeye fan would like to see. Why are we not seeing that with Julian? And I guess the answer is 34-16, no style points. Ryan Day is not here, and that's what makes me believe that they're out there with a practice script. We came out here with an intention to get better at X, Y, and Z, and we're going to do it. And you're seeing them start to solidify this running back rotation as long as they're not dealing with injuries. I did want to touch on injuries because I do think that did play a significant impact on the way this defense looked. We saw 5-star true freshman Devin Sanchez get his first start at corner. We talked about this decision that when Lorenzo Styles goes out of the game, we watched Jermaine Matthews, traditionally an outside corner, bump into nickel, and then you see the talented 5-star come in and play boundary corner. Do you think this defense looks different without Lorenzo Styles in it.
I think it does. I think the Devin Sanchez out there makes you match up better against the hyper elite teams in college football. I think Lorenzo Styles is better for the teams that aren't really three deep at receiver, like just naturally. And he does so much in run game too that he is super valuable situationally. I do think for the long term of this Ohio State defense, Devin Sanchez playing more is electric. Right, Ron, he was really good today.
Absolutely. How impressive was it, his ability to come into Ohio State and find a way to prepare himself that they felt comfortable enough to play him on third down in the fourth quarter of the Texas game in his first ever start. And now you see him in week 7 get his first official start as a true freshman. I mean, and then you see Aaron Scott get in the game later. The Buckeyes just have an embarrassment of riches at this cornerback position, and I thought he did more than hold his own in the absence of Lorenzo Styles.
Look, Aaron Scott is a starter or the first corner off the bench at 100 schools in the country. This just happened. It happens to be one of those few places where Devin Sanchez is just better than him right now. And it's close, but Devin Sanchez is so polished. He made one mistake, I think, and he tried to get his head around, was a bit late on what ended up being the pass interference. And saw the great goal line defense. But I'm like incredibly impressed with him to be able to kind of pick up and not just, here we go, not just do a really good job, but do well enough and have the name attached to him where you're a true freshman out there for your first start and they kind of don't even want to test you.
Yeah, like it's not that. Even normally you get a true freshman starting at cornerback, they're all over him the entire game. And aside from the one pass interference call, which, I mean, it prevented a touchdown and the Buckeyes were able to get off the field eventually, I thought that he played great. And to know that he's getting these reps, we've talked in years past about how Ohio State was so far down the spectrum as the amount of snaps that we were getting for our true freshmen. And now we're seeing true freshmen find an opportunity to start. Bo Jackson, the starting running back. I mean, Jeremiah Smith started on a national championship team last year. Devin Sanchez getting the big opportunity in the absence of Lorenzo Styles. I think, again, this points to things to be excited about regarding this Ohio State defense because, again, they're not even at full strength. They don't have Edric Houston. They don't have Lorenzo Styles. Oh, no worries. Our 5-star can handle it.
Yeah, no, he was elite, and I'm really excited about his future. I do have a take that I just want to that I've had for a while. And every time I say it, they kind of call me a madman a little bit. They kind of like push back. I'm gonna say it again, and I think this defense has exceptional players everywhere. I think Arvel's the best player on defense.
I agree. Josh Pate said a few weeks ago, the best player in the country should win the Heisman, but too bad they're not because they're on defense. And I quote tweeted the tweet with a picture of Arvel Reese because you hear all the talk about Ruben Bain, but you heard it on the broadcast. You don't see linebackers like this. This guy is 6'4", 244 pounds, running a 4.58. He's an absolute freak show. He almost got a sack today, throwing a running back into the quarterback.
Yeah, and then the second time that running back had a chance to get in the way.
Business decision.
Said, I'm cool on that. I'll get Caleb. I'll get Caleb. I'm cool on it. Again, I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. I think me and you might be the early ones on it because here we go. Caleb Downs is exceptional, best safety in America, one of the best DBs I've ever seen play. And it's not a slight at him. It's more, I think Arvel Reese is the most disruptive non-defensive lineman I've seen since I started covering Ohio State.
Oh,
I think it's not even close.
It's not even close. I mean, and I said the same thing about like when we watched Caden Curry wreck the game a few games ago. I was like, we haven't seen destruction like this on the defense since Jeff Hafley when we had Chase Young. It felt more like it was a complete unit coming together under Jim Knowles to achieve a goal. It wasn't a superstar carrying or shining, and almost probably to the detriment of Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau's draft stock, but it ended up in winning defense. Now you're seeing freaks flash on the field every play for the Buckeyes. And Arvel Reese, I mean, you have a guy as intelligent as Caleb Downs manning the back of the defense, and then you have a guy like Arvel Reese that is a complete freak show standing behind a defensive line with that type of depth and that is that multiple where you could have Caden Curry rushing off the edge, dropping into the flat in coverage, or lining up at nose guard and rushing the passer. This defense is just on another level, and you just have to tip your cap to Matt Patricia. And if you're Jim Knowles, you have to be shaking your head wondering, how did I leave this defense?
I mean, Ron, I've seen it a couple times. They will line up Caden Curry and Arvel next to each other right over the tackle. And the tackle has to pick which one they go to. And you see they both start to go. And then whoever the tackle picks to go get, they just drop out. And now you've wasted a tackle and you get a free runner.
Absolutely. And it feels like in years past, like back when Ohio State was getting run on for 300 plus yards by Oregon, it's like, why does it feel like everybody's playing so slow? Yeah. It feels like the Buckeyes are playing with the plays like they're 2023 Michigan.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, and they're doing it the right way. But anyway, that's all I got on today's game, man. Excited for Ohio State. They should remain the number 1 team in the country after a very convincing win over number 17, Illinois.
Absolutely. A great win by the Buckeyes, and you know how this thing ends. It's always go Bucks, and of course, OH.
I-O.